Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto chose Kushina as the only one for him? Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. First encounter. A certain blonde shinobi stared in the distance. Life is good, he remarked, surprising his team members. Naruto, what are you talking about? Sakura asked, curious about his behavior. Even Sasuke stopped in his tracks, awaiting an answer of his teammate. Something crossed my mind. It's not important. Come on, we need to deliver our mission report. And with that Naruto followed his way to the Hokage Tower, leaving behind two puzzled teammates. After the delivery of the mission reports, they wished each other goodbye and departed to their respective homes. Naruto couldn't help but thinking at the wonderful life he's living. His birth ended almost in a total disaster for his family and himself. Namikaze Kushina, formerly Uzumaki, was the second Jinchuriki of the Hidden Leaf. Her seal, which denied the nine-tailed demon fox the freedom to destroy and murdering innocent people, weakened with every month of her pregnancy. In the end her seal failed, but his father, Namikaze Minato, the fourth Hokage, resealed the demon fox with the helping hands of his predecessor Sarutobi Hiruzen and his sensei Jiraiya. With the power of 3 cage-level shinobi, they didn't have to rely on a self-sacrificing sealing jutsu. At this day Naruto was chosen to keep the menace at bay. He became the third Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed demon fox. His mother survived thanks to the godly healing skills of Tsunade. Both Sannin took their duty as godfather respectively godmother very seriously. The day after his 12th birthday Naruto departed with his godparents to a 3-year training trip. His mother wailed like a small girl who has lost her favorite doll. She nearly choked him in a fierce hug. On this trip he learned the arts of senjutsu and medical jutsu. Jiraiya and Naruto debated about using the power of the demon fox, but in the end Naruto decided against it. In his free time Jiraiya introduced Naruto in the secret art of perverts. At the beginning Naruto tried to fight against it, but he soon noticed that the blood of a pervert flows through him. In the end he accepted his natural talent. Naruto and Jiraiya spied on women in bathhouses and traveled through the different brothels. Naruto published as co-author various stories in Jiraiya's Ika Ika series. They even released a tour guide for Fire Country's brothels called Safer in Hai no Kuni, Brothels for the Exalted Demand. After 3 years Tsunade told Kushina tearfully, "I'm sorry, we lost your son to the dark side." Kushina was not amused. Jiraiya paid dearly for corrupting her baby. He finally arrived at his parents' home. Their house lies in a remote place of the Hidden Leaf village. In the backside there's an amazing garden, which could only grow so beautiful under his mother's constant cultivation. There's a small dojo too. His father had it built, so they could use it to spar against each other. He entered through the front door and heard his mother's humming from the kitchen. "Hello Mom," Naruto said, as he walked into the kitchen. "Naruto, how are you? How was your mission?" Kushina asked with a serene smile as she to him. Naruto could only stare at his mother. She looked like an angel, no like a goddess in her dark red kimono decorated with black ornaments. Her hair was marvelous. It's unbelievable long and reached till her rack. Every step she took her hair would sway with her. That's definitely an unparalleled sight. Naruto could see her firm heart shaped through her dressing. Her plump C-cup bosom put some strain on the kimono. He was sure, if the material would be a little thinner, he could see her nipples. "That's what you call a breathtaking smile," he thought. "Mom, you look gorgeous," he exclaimed. Kushina blushed, turning her face dark red. She could only avert her eyes to the ground while saying, "Why, thank you Naruto." It came instantly to his mind, Mom is totally weak against any form of praise. I will tease her so much. She looks so cute with her blushing face. He was so much in teasing mode, as he sensed a Chunin courier outside of their house. Naruto met him at the front door and received a message from his father. He read it and handed the letter to his mother. His father would start an unscheduled inspection of the Hidden Leaf's forward bases immediately. The letter states that it would take approximately 2 weeks. Naruto remembers some gossip between the Jonins about irregularities in their forward bases. Kushina read the letter too and looked a little bit sad. She said, "Naruto, I will make dinner. Meanwhile you can take a shower and get some new clothes." In the end he could only comply. That was not the right moment to tease her further. Under the hot shower he could only keep his mother in mind. She is an absolutely gorgeous and stunning goddess. Every man in the Hidden Leaf stared at her when she is moving through the streets. The woman population idolized her as the perfect role model, and the younger generation adores her for her kindness and charity projects. Kushina couldn't continue her kunoichi career after the breaking of the seal. Her chakra is unstable. Sometimes there are no problems, but there are moments when she cannot use her chakra at all. She decided with Minato to end her kunoichi career. Instead she took care of social projects in the village. His mind wandered to his mother back, especially to her awesome kimono. She looked so absolutely hot. He had seen his mother in her nightgown several times. His imagination projected her form in his mind. It's needless to say that he got an instant boner. "Naruto, dinner is ready," Kushina shouted from the kitchen. "I'm sorry guy, but I have to cool you down," said Naruto to his boner and switched from hot to cold water. The dinner was quite uneventful. After this Kushina washed the wishes. In the meantime Naruto made oneself comfortable on the sofa in the living room with his notepad in the hands. He promised Jiraiya to give him some new ideas until the end of the week. Naruto was too absorbed in his work. He didn't sense how Kushina approached him from behind. "Naruto, what are you doing? You are writing that smut again. I will get very angry," stated a furious Kushina. Poor Naruto was ambushed. He tried to save what was left and said, "Mom, that's not smut. It's art." Kushina snatched his notepad away from his hand. After an angry glance to his son, she started to read the text. Naruto watched intensely how his mother's face beat red. He couldn't say if it was the anger or the embarrassment. "That's a case for the dustbin," Kushina exclaimed and started to march off to the kitchen. Naruto couldn't let his mother destroy his art. He jumped over the sofa and grabbed her arm. In the following fight they lost the balance and crashed to the ground. "Ouch!" whimpered a dazed Kushina as she sat up. Naruto couldn't believe his eyes. His mother was straddling his hip. Instantly the pictures of his mother's filled his mind. He could feel his boner growing and pressing against her womanhood. "Oh, Naruto," stated a shocked Kushina to an equally shocked Naruto. As she started to stand up, Naruto took the initiative and flipped her over, pinning her on the ground. Holding her hands in his, spreading her legs with his, she didn't have a chance to escape that situation. Mainly it would be quite difficult for her to push away the 160 pounds of her son's body with her delicate frame of only 120 pounds. Naruto's instincts took over and he started to grind his raging boner against her, only 3 layers of fabric shielding them from each other. "Naruto, have you no reason? I'm your mother. We cannot do that," Kushina protested. Naruto stopped and Kushina thought she would be saved. "No reason. Mom, did you look at the mirror today? You look absolutely gorgeous in your outfit. Moreover, your blushing face is so cute, it is borderline criminal. You are virtually asking me to you," Naruto explained agitated. "That dress is not for you, it's for your father," Kushina answered. "His loss is my gain. Let's get started, Kushina-chan," Naruto whispered her in the ear and started again his grinding against her crotch. Kushina could feel an overwhelming lust rising in her lower regions. A familiar heat is building up in her. Oh no, I'm getting wet. If he continues with this speed, I will come in no time. I must something do to stop this. Kushina thought, but her efforts are interrupted by an eager Naruto, who is kissing in her neck. You taste of cherry. Oh, the left side of your neck is already full of hickeys. I will better move to the other side, Kushi-chan. Naruto chuckled and started shaking on the right side. Don't call me that. I'm your mother. Kushina protested weakly. Surprised by her weak remark and decreasing resistance, Naruto looked at her and saw a dreamy look on her face. He thought to himself, she wouldn't. Or would she? He tried to test his theory and intensified his grinding in force and speed. Additionally, he began to nibble on her right ear and started dirty talk. Shina-chan, your feels so good. Don't talk about my kya 3 inches. It works. Now I have to impregnate her mind with the right pictures. Naruto grinned from ear to ear. Oh Kushi-chan, imagine how my big fat CCK would ravage your tight slender. No, 3. How I would pound you like a beast till you lose your consciousness. It hit her like a blast. Her inner wall started to clench. Her felt so hot, she couldn't stop it anymore. Kushina cried out in pleasure, I'm coming. Naruto looked in shock as he saw that beautiful woman crying out in pleasure. He had not thought that he could make her come so easily. His thoughts were interrupted by a wet feeling in the area of his crotch. I didn't come or, holy shit, mom is squirting like a fountain. Naruto saw it with his own unbelieving eyes. Kushina lost every control of her body. Her ejaculation sprayed against Naruto's crotch. His trousers were totally wet. He released his mother from his grip. Kushina was torn by her feelings. She experienced an absolutely wonderful orgasm. But the one who did make her come was her own son and not her husband. She buried her face in her hands. Mom, you are a squirter. That's unbelievable. I didn't thought that I could make you come so easily. Naruto said excited. He did hear the familiar sobbing sound of a crying person. Hey, please don't cry. Naruto soothed and hoisted her up, so that she would straddle his lap, but now he could hug her and caress her spine. Kushina calmed down and looked at her son. He gave her a warm smile. When was the last time you squirted such a fountain? Naruto asked. Naruto, I can't tell you that. It's bad enough that you had with your own mother. Kushina countered indignantly. We didn't have. You come all alone. That's pretty egoistic. You can answer my questions or you can UCK my CCK. It's your decision. Naruto answered total reasonably. Kushina's face was blank. She wouldn't SCK her son's CCK. No, she couldn't. I will answer his ridiculous questions and end this horrible situation. Kushina thought. 10 years ago was the last time I squirted. Kushina told with downcast eyes. When did you have the last time? Naruto asked innocently. 10 years. Hey, stop. What are you asking? Kushina demanded, slightly enraged. Mom, you should consider the situation you are currently in. First of all, you're straddling my lap and sitting on my giant boner. Second, you squirted 2 minutes ago a fountain of your love juice over my crotch. And finally, you told me that you are frickin' virgin for the last 10 years. I will so absolutely F. UCKU. You can tell me what you want. Your body wants me. Your PSSY wants my awk. And because I am the gentleman that I am, I cannot refuse the request of such a vigorous pussy. Besides, I have to punish that naughty squirting pussy for making my trousers wet. Naruto whispered in her ear. After this, he put his hands under her and picked her up. She could only put her arms behind his neck and straddle him further. Kushina was totally stunned. She didn't accept her son to talk such dirty things. She knew he was a pervert thanks to Jiraiya's influence. But that dirty talk was directed at her. And it made her horny beyond belief. No opposition. That's good. Everyone knows only a wet PSSY is a happy PSSY. Naruto laughed. He walked to the second level of the house and stopped at the crossways between his parents' room and his room. Which room do you prefer? Naruto grinned at her. I'm sorry, but that was a rhetorical question. I am about to have with a real woman. Moreover, it's the goddess of the leaf. It's only appropriate when I give you a small home field advantage. You will need it. It began to dawn on Kushina. She wouldn't be the same tomorrow. Naruto stopped at the foot of her bed. He gently put her down and inspected her closely. Her kimono was in disorder and it got a big wet stain from her squirting orgasm. I will have to relieve you from your kimono, Naruto said exited. He loosened her sash and opened the Pandora's box. He lost his breath. Kushina wore the full program. A bra, panties, a garter belt and pantyhose, all in red. Kushina-chan, are you trying to seduce me? Naruto asked accusingly. It was meant to be a special day. Kushina answered, fighting against a heavy blush on her face. It will be a special day, Kushi-chan. Naruto exclaimed happily and started to rub his nose against her wet undergarments. No, it's dirty, Kushina protested. Naruto breathed through his nose and countered, dizzy, that's the scent of a woman. And as from now it's my woman's scent. You shall take responsibility for your lewd body. Naruto took a last breath and tried to memorize the scent of his goddess nectar. The panties were connected through straps and ended in a bow on each side. So he only had to pull on the straps to open her undergarments. He had full view of her PSSY. Mom's pussy is completely shaved. I can't wait to taste her. If she tastes only half as good as she smelled, it will be a feast. And her pretty pink color makes you to bury your face in it. I've seen many variations of pussies in brothels, but that's unheard of. Naruto was absorbed in thought. With a seasoned gesture he lifted her and grabbed her panties, only to store it in his trouser pocket. That's what you call spoils of war. Naruto chuckled, but now I have to relieve my big guy. Kushina glanced at Naruto as he stripped out of his clothes. His full erect member came to her view. His CCK must be 8-inch tall. Kushina couldn't help herself, but was mesmerized by the swollen tip and the bulging veins of her son's auk. Naruto grinned at his mother's dreamy look and announced, we will move to the main dish soon enough. But before that I want to have a little snack for myself. He put her legs above his shoulder and guided his head in front of her crotch. Without warning he latched his mouth on her pussy and began to discover her inner walls with his tongue. Simultaneously he started to SCK so that he could collect every available fluid in her ussy. Kushina was not in the slightest prepared for that vicious attack. A deep lustful moan escaped her moan. Naruto increased his vigor after hearing the pleasure he was giving her. After long minutes of sinful moans and lewd slurping sounds, Naruto could feel how her inner walls were clamping down on his tongue. Kushina grabbed the blanket in a futile effort to regain a minimal amount of composure as she cried out in pleasure, I'm coming. I'm Fu, Sea King coming. Lick me. SCK my ussy. The great quantities of female ejaculate almost surprised him, but he adapted like the cunning fox he was. He started to gulp down Kushina's love juice and he loved every drip of it. It got only one disadvantage, his horniness increased tenfold. He used every bit of self-control he could muster to stop himself from ravaging the beauty in front of him. Kushina, who didn't notice the problems of her son, had the time of her life. She panted exhausted and couldn't help but smile and enjoy the aftermath of her fantastic orgasm. She was interrupted as Naruto stood up. His erect member was a mere inch away from her wet swollen pussy. Kushina couldn't believe her eyes. Naruto's CCK started to twitch fiercely. Then she noticed the naughty grin he was wearing. Your love juicy is a first-class aphrodisiac, Naruto stated as he slapped his CCK on her PSSY. Every time he slapped her PSSY with his CCK, she felt spark moving through her body. Now we are moving to the main dish. Itadakimasu. Naruto exclaimed happily and moved her in the missionary position and placed her legs on his shoulders. Naruto took the time to gaze at his mother. They were already beyond the relationship of mother and son. They were lovers. A shred of doubt started to wander through his mind. This was not unnoticed by Kushina. For the first time she took the initiative and put her hands behind his neck, pulling him down for a kiss. You should end what you started, Namikaze Naruto. Kushina smiled at him. After all, your twitching CCK is all too eager to taste my ussy. He is slapping my ussy the whole time. Naruto regained his former resolution and guided the head of his member to the entrance of her pussy. After the tip of his head touched her folds, a spark runs through his body. Her folds are so hot and wet. I cannot describe this feeling. He started to push farther and farther. His cock's head was already swallowed by her pussy's folds. That tightness. It's like she is shicking me in. Inch by inch he pushed his hardened member in her wet and soft, yet so tight love canal. His member was fully engulfed by her ussy. He took a deep breath and started to pound her in a merciless fashion. His balls were slapping against her rack. Every deep thrust the tip of his auk bumped against her cervix. Kushina's eyes rolled as she let out a series of lewd moans. He's ucking my womb. What an incredible feeling. That's the first time I felt such pleasure. Now I'm a woman. Shina-chan, you're squeezing me so hard. I will not make it any longer, Naruto moaned intensely. Come in my mouth. It's an unsafe day, Kushina moaned heavy. Kushina did make a grave mistake. Naruto lost every reason after slurping down his lover's ejaculate. But now she brought in the possibility of pregnancy. His carnal instincts took over and his only goal was to impregnate the female below him. I will get you pregnant for sure, Shina-chan, Naruto announced self-confidently. Kushina was shocked. All the times with Minato, she wished for a second child. But they got no luck. After the birth of their firstborn, their activities ceased to a minimum. 7 years after Naruto's birth they stopped to have with each other. No, we absolutely cannot do that. There are boundaries we must not cross, Kushina stated weakly. Kushina mustered the last bit of her concentration and empowered her womb with chakra. That was not unnoticed by Naruto, who considered countermeasures for her foolish behavior. He started to wiggle with his CCK so that it would slap her inner walls. You're unreasonable, Shina-chan. Your womb is already panting greedily at my CCK, awaiting my seed. Your womb wants to be impregnated. You shouldn't lie to yourself, Naruto moaned heavily, indicating that he reached his limit. With a final thrust he pushed his CCK as deep as never before. His ox head bumped against Kushina's cervix, initiating her orgasm. Abruptly her walls clamped down on his ox, trying vigorously to milk his seed. Her cervix opened her mouth after his final thrust, inviting the imminent squirt of sperm. My womb is betraying me. I cannot believe that. Are you really so eager to become pregnant? Kushina asks herself. For the third time on this day Kushina squirted a fountain of female ejaculate against her male partner. As if it was an independent organism, her ussy targeted Naruto's weakest point to maximize the effects of her squirting orgasm. A gushing fountain splattered against his balls, bringing heavenly pleasure to the blonde shinobi, who experienced the beginning of an unparalleled orgasm. The wet stimulation brought by Kushina's gushing fountain doubled his available amount of sperm. She was doomed. Naruto got serious problems to catch his breath. He could feel his burning balls, preparing vast amounts of seed for only one mission, to impregnate the female's womb. And as if that were not enough, his mother squirted against his balls. At least that cooled them down somewhat. He could feel his seeds flow through the base of his shaft, accelerating at a lightning speed. The contractions of Kushina's inner wall intensified his orgasm. Even if I hadn't wanted to come in her, I wouldn't have had the chance to escape her vice grip on my. On the one hand she is telling me not to come in her, and on the other hand her poo. SSY is milking my CCK like cow. Finally the steady flow of sperm reached the head of his CCK, and a last violent twitch announced the imminent shot of sperm. A thick white blob of seed sprayed against her cervix, missing its mouth by a mere quarter-inch. The second shot was clumsy, thus hitting her cervix on the outer edge. It was the third shot, which defeated her unstable defense in a single strike. The third thick blob of sperm flowed directly through her cervix mouth, entering her womb unhindered. It exploded like a display of fireworks, thus bringing Kushina's orgasm to a new level. Her eyes rolled back. She did only feel the warm sensation after ropes by ropes of thick sperm were entering her womb. She didn't have the power to cry out in pleasure anymore. Her body's only way to express the satisfaction was the spasm of her hips. Deep as the best. Oh, that CCK is trying to impregnate me. On. I love it how his sperm splatters against the back of my womb. And now it's starting to slosh around. Kushina drifted slowly into unconsciousness. A content smile was seen on her face. Naruto smiled at the sight of his woman. She looked so peacefully and content. He put her legs from his shoulders and rolled both of them over. Kushina was lying on top of him. His CCK was still sticking in her exhausted poo. SSY. Occasionally his CCK would splurt a blob of sperm against her now sealed shut cervix. Naruto pulled the blanket over them and started to fall in a deep sleep. What's that nice feeling? My womb feels so loaded and pleased. I cannot describe it. Where I am. What happened yesterday? My head is pure white. I cannot remember, but I'm feeling so good. If it is a dream, I wish it would never end. Kushina's thoughts were interrupted, as she felt a weird stinging sensation on her womanhood. Instantly she opened her eyes. She lay on her son and his morning wood stabbed against the entrance of her poo. SSY. Naruto gave her a genuine smile and greeted her. Did you sleep well? You know what? You are purring in your sleep. That's so cute. It's needless to say that Kushina was stunned. The memories of her sinful act of the night before flooded her mind. She remembered how he jerked his sperm in her poo. SSY, bypassing her traitorous cervix and thus staining her womb completely white. She shuddered as she thought of the frivolous feeling of hot and thick sperm splattering against the back of her womb. Naruto observed her thoroughly. She had the same dreamy on her face, as he had given her unbearable pleasure yesterday. He decided to exploit her state of weakness and started to invade her mind with his perverted thoughts. Are you ready for round 2, Shina-chan? My Ak is very eager to eat up your poo. SSY. Although it was your PSSY which has devoured my CCK. I can feel your twitching poo. SSY through the head of my Ak. It's so cute. It's like they are madly in love, Naruto said. Kushina tried to muster all of her remaining power to escape. Her knees were too weak to withstand her weight. Her futile effort brought her in a straddling position. She sat directly on Naruto's CCK, which was twitching madly in anticipation. His erect member buried himself in her soft folds. She could feel his bulging veins through her folds. Suddenly she felt very horny. It was only a matter of seconds till her juice would be flowing in vast amounts. A hot syrupy liquid started to blanket his CCK. Her juice worked like lubrication, reducing the friction between manhood and womanhood. The tip of his CCK touched her. Kushina cried out in pleasure, as his COK massaged her sensitive organ. Naruto couldn't help but stare at his lovers. They were still trapped in her bra. Yesterday he only took care of her pus. Sigh. With a grunting voice he straightened up and unhooked her bra with a fluid movement. Finally free of their oppression, her beast swayed directly in front of his eyes. That's the of a goddess. Her areolas got such a pretty pink color and her nipples are literally pleading me to SCK on them. Naruto was instantly mesmerized by her beautiful and plump mounds. He put one of his hands under her right beast and tried to evaluate the weight. They are heavy and soft. My hand is sinking in, Naruto exclaimed excited. He brushed with his thumb over her nipple, causing her to cry out in pleasure. With a final glance at his lover's eyes, he latched his mouth on her right. Kushina heard the naughty slurping sound her son was producing. She could feel the suction on her right breast. His tongue twirled around her nipple. She was in heaven. His ox started to vibrate against her pussy, intensifying her lust. She could feel the cool air on her ravaged beast, as her son started to working on her left one. Her nipple was erected and blanketed with her son's saliva. She would soon start to fall in the same abyss as the night before. He increased his vigor and the suction pressure started to grow up. On. Stop shaking. Are you trying to milk me? Kushina asked between her moans. Naruto got a flash of insight, but he would postpone it for the moment. Her thoughts were interrupted by a spontaneous Naruto, who lifted her off the bed and dragged her in front of a mirror cabinet. She was shocked. Naruto admired the beauty in front of him. He could see her image in the mirror. He had ravaged both of her tasty. Both nipples were swollen and covered in his saliva. She was still wearing her red pantyhose and garter belt. Her sexy underwear amplified his perverted thoughts. Kushina on the other hand tried to fight off the imminent orgasm. While Naruto was dragging her to the mirror, the sperm in her womb developed a life of its own. It started to slosh around, making her head dizzy. Naruto was slightly unhappy about the hidden view of his lover's rear. Her long red mane concealed her voluptuous. He took hold of her mane and threw them about his right shoulder. After a quick glance at her firm rear, he nodded satisfied and gave her a light slap on her right cheek. He positioned himself behind his lover. He was 5 feet and 11 inches tall. Kushina was slightly smaller with 5 feet and 3 inches. Her delicate frame harmonized with his athletic body. Kushina could feel his pronounced abdomen against her back. His loin was directly pressing against her cheeks. His ox took his familiar position and buried himself in her outer folds. They looked like a perfect unit. Her red hair was flowing behind his back. She was embarrassed by the sight of herself in the mirror but couldn't stop to feel proud about her body. She looked sexy as hell in her pantyhose and garter belt. She wouldn't have imagined to be taken in such a naughty position. Naruto started to fondle her breasts. I like, Naruto told her happily. She agreed without opposition. Looking down, she could see his twitching cock against her womanhood. An unbearable knot of suppressed lust started to grow in her crotch. But all he did was fondling and shaking on her left neck. Naruto could see the discomfort his lover suffered. He decided to tease her further. With his index fingers he rolled each of her nipples, sending an electric pulse of pleasure through her body. If you want my fat, hot and twitching cock in your ussy, you should put it in yourself. Do it and I will you till your mind fades, Naruto whispered naughtily in her left ear. Kushina couldn't believe herself. Her body was moving on its own. Her left hand moved to his twitching cock and started to pump it. She could feel her own slimy and sticky juice on her hands. It was in a concentrated form, which would explain its gooey nature. Kushina saw in the mirror how her hand moved his cock to the entrance of her pussy. His ox head parted her folds and in a split second her hungry womanhood sucked his cock in, devouring it completely. Naruto heard his lover moaning. He was happy because this time Kushina took an active part in their encounter. Normally my ox is feeling like it would explode every second from the blood pressure. But now I feel like it's melting in her pussy. I never experienced this before. That's a puss. Sigh among pussies. Naruto started to thrust his shaft in and out of her love canal. He got serious problems to maintain a steady thrust. Her inner walls were greedily holding him inside, when he starts to thrust backwards. Naruto moved his right hand from her right breast to her thigh. Without warning he lifted her right leg to intensify his thrusting, thus bringing her faster to an orgasm. Kushina was unprepared as he lifted her leg. She tried to counter it and started to stand on tippy toes with her leg feet. But his merciless and powerful thrusts disarmed her completely. She lost her balance, but Naruto moved his left hand to her belly in order to stabilize her. She could hear her ussies smacking sounds, as his cock ravaged her womanhood. A ring of foam started to build at the end of his shaft. Her gooey syrup was flowing down his shaft. A thick blob of clear liquid started to grow on the bottom side of his balls. Her juice got some special qualities. First, it was a powerful aphrodisiac when drunk. Second, it was surely the best available lubrication. And finally, it got characteristics of syrup. By now she could see several threads of thick and syrupy juice was hanging down from his balls. Occasionally they would fall on the ground, staining the carpet. Her were moving up and falling down with every thrust. The blanket of saliva was already dried up by the air. She wouldn't admit it, but she loved every second of her lover's tender care of her bosom. She couldn't resist anymore. She her head to him and used her right hand to turn his head to him. They could see in each other's eyes. She locked his lips with hers, kissing him French style. Naruto was stunned by her display of affection. His tongue invaded her mouth, fighting for supremacy. She was defeated in a matter of seconds. She was so innocent. He would have to train her thoroughly in order to experience advanced intercourse. After 20 seconds of French kissing, both lovers needed to catch breath. He could see her eyes rolling back. She was close to an orgasm. He was ready to shot his sperm every second. The milking contractions of her inner walls would start his shower. He put all vigor in the next thrust. His CCK's head kissed her cervix and thus starting an unstoppable process. Kushina's mind went blank. Her inner wall started their contractions and trying to milk his precious seed. She could feel the outline of his auk. Thanks to her inner wall she could memorize every bulgy vein. Her pussy clamped on his tool for her dear life. Not a single drop of sperm should be wasted. Occasionally she could hear a smacking sound from her. It's really trying to devour his auk, Kushina observed. She heard his grunting voice, signalizing the imminent spray of thick and hot sperm. He will stain my womb in white. After this I will be pregnant for sure. I cannot help but feel excited. Naruto has got his hands full. His right hand was lifting up her leg. With his left hand he was stabilizing her by holding her belly. He could feel his balls preparing an incredible large amount of sperm. He watched his lover's face and smiled. There were many indicators of a blissful state. He seized the opportunity and latched his mouth on hers, engaging her in a second French kissing battle. Her womb was full of sperm from her last intercourse the night before. Her cervix would open his mouth in the last second to avoid wasting his precious seed. The communication between his auk and her was unheard of. The sperm flowed with breathtaking speed from his balls through his shaft till the head of his CCK. A violent twitch announced the imminent cum shower. In a split second Kushina's cervix opened its mouth. The tip of his CCK was docked into her cervix's opening. The old sperm was hindered from escaping. Naruto moaned heavily in Kushina's mouth as the first thick blob of sperm squirted from his CCK. It flew directly in her filled womb, thus putting a heavy strain on her organ. Kushina's eye blinked open at the new experience in her belly. His CCK was squirting violently ropes by ropes of thick and sticky sperm in her loaded womb. Instantaneously her hips began to spasm. The invading seed cut mercilessly through the existing one, causing the entirety of collected sperm to slosh around. Her womb expanded as if by a miracle. As a last thick blob of sperm sprayed in her womb, her cervix noticed the ending orgasm and closed its mouth in the right time. This final sensation tore down her gates, starting a forceful female ejaculation. She cried out in pleasure, as a gushy fountain of squirting juices hit the mirror. Both lovers were fighting to catch their breaths. Kushina would have fallen down if Naruto hadn't used all his remaining power to hold his lover. Naruto was stunned. He stared on the mirror blanketed with the love juice of the female in his arms. Naruto pulled his member from her womanhood and shuddered at the feeling of cold air on his ock. Kushina felt sad at the feeling of emptiness in her, but a strong slosh of sperm in her womb made her happy again. He was surprised by the lack of sperm dripping out of her. Her womb consumed greedily every drip of his seed. Bit by bit Naruto regained his senses. He smelled a sour odor in the air. This room reeked of wild and untamed intercourse. That's the way it's supposed to be, Naruto thought happily. He hugged his red-haired goddess from behind and placed his hands on her belly. As her sense returned to her, she widened her eyes in horror. Her son embraced her from behind, tenderly rubbing her belly in soothing circles. Both of them were naked as the day they were born. A massive wave of guilt washed over her. Not even 2 days ago she was living a normal and satisfying life. She was a wife and a mother. What was she now? Many questions rose up in her mind. She betrayed her husband with her own son. She even had intercourse with him, and to make it worse, she enjoyed it greatly. What would happen from now on? She couldn't tell anybody a single word about this. She had to lie to her husband. She had to lie to everyone. The truth would surely threaten her family. A family she almost lost 17 years ago. She remembered an old discussion concerning her special conditions as former host of the Demon Fox. Flashback. She glanced to her husband and smiled. They discussed the matter over the last weeks. He could relieve her from her sorrows so easily. They invited the former Hokage and his wife to their house. They sat down at the table in pairs, giving Minato and Kushina the perfect chance to declare the cause for this occasion. "We want to have a baby," Minato announced happily. Sarutobi squeezed his eyes. He wouldn't want to deny the young couple their right to start a family, but he could imagine his wife's reaction. Bawako gave Kushina a strict look and spoke like a mother berating her child. "You are the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Pregnancy will weaken the seal dramatically. When your predecessor Mito-sama gave birth, it is said the seal nearly broke. You will not only endanger yourself, but everyone in this village." Kushina expected to be reprimanded by the former Hokage's wife. Yet it made her feel like a bad person to give in to her to have children. Minato sensed the growing uneasiness in his wife and put his hand on her shoulder. Kushina is a strong kunoichi. Never before was an Uzumaki born, gifted with a chakra as special as hers. She deterred the 9 tails without flaw until now. I will put my trust in her, Minato spoke confidently. Kushina stared at the pair in front of them and vowed with infectious resolution, I will hold the 9 tails at bay. Not for myself, but for my unborn child. I will not give it the opportunity to destroy my family. Sarutobi glanced at his wife and could see her speechless expression. Few could silence his wife. He put on his grandfatherly smile and congratulated the couple in front of him. You have my blessings. But if I remember correctly, you both have to do something to have a baby. Kushina blushed at the obvious fact. Minato put his hand behind his head, laughing weakly. Bawako however rolled her eyes and muttered something about perverted old geezer, and his pupil's influence. Meanwhile, 600 miles away, Jiraiya sneezed while conducting his research. What lovely lady is thinking of the great Jiraiya? It's not easy to be popular with the womenfolks, but I will bear with it, Jiraiya thought and laughed like a madman. Flashback ends. Kushina freed herself from her son's embrace and spoke with determination. You know what happened on the day of your birth. The odds were against us. As by a miracle our whole family survived this day. I'm living for our family. It's my happiness. I won't let it be destroyed by anyone. Naruto blinked at the person in front of him. That was not the woman he had with in the last 2 days. That was his mother, a person who defended his family against any sort of threat, vicious like a mother bear protecting her cub. It surprised him that he was seen as a threat by her. Didn't you enjoy the last 2 days? I could see your face. You were happy. Naruto accused her angrily, pushing her against the wall. Whether I enjoyed it or not doesn't matter. I'm your cousin and somebody else's wife, Kushina exclaimed, slightly agitated. She couldn't believe she was having this conversation with her son. Somebody else. Not very convincing, Naruto stated dryly, his eyes feasting on her body. He touched her thighs. I'm your cousin, Kushina stuttered, trying her best to resist his touches. You already said that, Naruto remarked. His right hand moved up to play with a strand of her silky hair. He put the particular strand under his nose, inhaling her sweet scent. I won't discuss it with you, because there is nothing to be discussed. That never happened, do you understand me? Kushina asked him. As she was on the verge of defeat, she used her remaining power to push him away. No, I don't understand it. As you have stated, the last time you had good was 10 years ago. You should be thankful, Naruto responded, knowing that he said something very wrong. Aha, I should be thankful that you sacrificed yourself to have sex with a woman who wasn't touched in 10 years. Asshole, Kushina shot back, visibly annoyed. I didn't mean it that way. You have to understand. Naruto tried to explain, just to be interrupted by Kushina. You should leave now. That never happened. Hopefully I'm not pregnant, Kushina said nonchalantly, shaking her head. Naruto looked at her, desperately searching for an uncertainty. In the end he began to leave the room. His hand was about to reach the doorknob as he around, facing her again. He spoke with an unfamiliar honesty and warmth in his voice. I did enjoy the last 24 hours greatly. Even if I have to deny them, I will never forget. And I didn't sacrifice myself. As a matter of fact, I was so excited and happy that you were untouched. No, I would call it maiden-like. Kushina was stunned. The situation was awkward. After all, she was except her pantyhose and garter belt, not even closely covering her private parts. And now Naruto confessed these things. Honestly, I tried to imagine that you were my wife rather than my cousin. It was nice while it did last. Naruto confessed warmly. He left the room, leaving behind a puzzled Kushina, who was lost for words for a long time. Back in his own room, Naruto sat on his bed, fighting against frustrating emotions. As he was about to take a shower, he sensed two familiar chakras approaching his home. He cursed and rushed to put on his clothes. He sprinted down the stairs and opened the main door of their house. Naruto, you are looking so messed up. Did you get in a fight with your cousin? Sakura asked, worried, sneaking a glance into her friend's home. Naruto's eyes widened as his teammate mentioned his mother. He lied. I trained in the backyard. I was about to take a shower, as I sensed your chakra. Now what's going on? We were assigned to a mission. We will back up one of our teams at the northern border. They should clear a camp of marauding bandits. Apparently the bandits hired some missing nins as protection, Sasuke stated impassively. That will be a piece of cake. Let us go, Naruto exclaimed, and thus three promising shinobi took off to complete their assignment. Kushina relaxed as their chakras disappeared from her sensor. She looked at the smeared mirror and sighed, knowing she was the one who has to clean the mess up. She decided to take a shower. After 2 demanding and exhausting sessions, her body was all sticky. She took of the remnants of her sexy underwear and entered the bathroom. Normally she would knot her hair into a bun, because it would take hours to dry her hair. Now she wanted to destroy every evidence of the last 24 hours. She stepped into the shower and opened the water tap. Warm water started to refresh her body. After 2 relaxing minutes of sweet idleness, she off the tap. Afterward she grabbed her favorite shampoo and put some of the lotion in her right hand. Then she rubbed it between her hands till all of the lotion converted into fluffy foam. It would take a long time to massage the lotion in her magnificent long hair, but she hadn't much to do anyway. Wondrously her mind wandered back to Naruto's confession. She would like to deny it, but it made her quite happy to be the target of his covetousness. She shook her head furiously, trying to banish these unnatural thoughts. Enjoyed the last 24 hours greatly. A small blush started to build up in her face. Naruto's words were implanted too deep inside her mind. I would call it maiden-like. Her blush intensified as she touched her private parts, sending a spark through her body. Maiden. Don't say stupid things baka tte bane. Kushina exclaimed loudly. I really said it, Kushina said slightly flustered. Curiously she lost the strength in her knees, causing her so stumble against the shower's wall. In her early years, she was known as a person who spoke without thinking. She tended to add the phrase, tte bane, at the end of her sentences, a definite indicator for excitement. However, she had to calm down after marrying Minato, because a Hokage's wife should be a role model for every female in the village. It shocked her that Naruto's words were able to generate such emotions. She squeezed her eyes and took a deep breath, trying to wipe these immoral thoughts once and for all. Don't talk about my Hya, a female voice purred in her ear. Kushina snapped open her eyes. She was in a dark place. The underground had a red velvet carpet. She had to be in someone's house. Where was the ominous voice? Deep as the best. The voice exclaimed happily. Who are you? Kushina asked nervously, disbelieving that someone would cry out such indecent words. On. I love it how his sperm splatters against the back of my womb. The voice moaned sinfully. That are my thoughts. Who are you? Kushina thought to herself, frantically searching the source of voice. Who I am. I'm you. The voice stated proudly, before stepping forward. Kushina's eye widened. In front of her was a doppelganger of herself. She wore the same sexy underwear as Kushina did, when Naruto conquered her for the first time. The other. Kushina moved, swaying her hips from one side to the other. Such lewd underwear. The other. Kushina stated joyfully, playing with the straps of her bra. I asked you who you are. The original Kushina stated angrily, pointing at her with her index finger. Can't you tell? I'm a mirror of your own. You may call me your subconsciousness. Or you may call me your perverted side. The other one giggled. As she snapped her finger, a chair appeared in front of them. A chair? Kushina asked surprised. The other one grinned and snapped a second time. Naruto appeared on the chair, bounded, blindfolded and. What are you doing? Kushina asked lividly. It dawned her what would happen next. The other one circled Naruto like a predator with its prey, completely ignoring the raging original. The copy's eyes flashed up as she bounced on the vulnerable Naruto, straddling his lap. A groan escaped his mouth, as the other one ground her hips against his crotch. She grabbed his face and kissed him on the lips. The original started to freak out, shouting curses and orders to stop the act. The other won her head, grinning like a she-devil, while she stood up rubbing her against Naruto's erected member. As she was about to pull her panties aside, the only layer of fabric separating their genitals, the original screamed. Stop it. In the next moment she sat on the shower's hard ground. Kushina whined as she stood up, rubbing her sore butt to soothe her pain. Perverted subconsciousness. Screw yourself. Their mission out to be a massive letdown. As they were about to engage their enemies, the missing nins decided to go missing again. They abandoned their clients, making it easy for two squads of skilled shinobi to defeat the remaining bandits without sweat. 2 hours later, it was already evening. They entered the village of Konoha. Naruto, are you sick? Sakura asked concerned. Naruto nearly stumbled, as he was absorbed in thought. I'm fine, Sakura. Naruto flashed her a reassuring smile. Sasuke narrowed his eyes on the blonde's back, but decided to shut his mouth. After 10 uneventful minutes they arrived at the public part of the Hokage Tower. It was not really a tower. However, the Hokage was working in there, so it should get a great name. They entered the mission agency, which was the central station where clients could hire shinobi for their needs. Normally shinobi would report the mission's result to their Hokage. But that was a special case, because Naruto's team finished a public mission. The client was a small village, which was raided by the bandits. Now they could sleep in peace. After receiving hearty thanks for their successful operation by 2 happy villagers, Naruto bid farewell to his teammates. He was lost in thoughts. He couldn't understand the events of this morning. In 1 second he had happy fulfilling with his mother, and in the other second they argued heatedly. He shook his head, sighing as he strolled through the streets of Konoha. He didn't feel like returning home soon. As he stuck his hand into the trousers pockets, he felt something weird. His hand played with the unknown object, trying to decipher its structure. With one fluid hand movement, he pulled out the object. Hentai. A woman screeched, as she shielded the eyes of her daughter. The crowd stopped abruptly, looking for the reason of this outburst. Naruto's eyes widened as he held a sexy red panty in his hands. Shit, that's Mom's panty. This moment, somebody tapped him on the shoulder, before giving his loud approval. That's my favorite pupil. Always collect your spoils of war. Naruto sighed as he swiftly stashed the underwear. Hey, that's not the way you should greet your sensei. Jiraiya cried with fake tears in his eyes. Naruto rolled with his eyes. Hey Ero Sennin, since when were you back in town? I arrived at noon, but tell me, who is the girl that this sexy panty belongs to? Jiraiya asked with a naughty grin. As if I can tell you that. Now invent a believable lie. I did see them for the first time. No, that won't work. It's a girl I met outside the village. Naruto spoke out his white lie. I'm proud of you. In any event, I wanted to visit you. I haven't seen your Okasan in ages. Jiraiya exclaimed, dragging behind an unhappy Naruto. That's for my plan to keep out her way today. They arrived at home 10 minutes later. Kushina was slightly surprised to see her husband's mentor. He was the root of all evil. He corrupted her dear baby with his perverted mindset. Nevertheless, she invited him to dinner, an offer he gladly accepted. While they sat at the dining table, Kushina talked with him about old times, resurrecting legendary tales about Jiraiya's mischances. Naruto was amazed. Apparently his godfather tried to peek on his mother. He suffered terrible consequences. Neither Naruto nor Kushina tried to interact with each other, leaving Jiraiya in an awkward situation. He decided to warm up the atmosphere. Kushina, don't be so gloomy. After all, we have something to celebrate. Jiraiya exclaimed, throwing his hands in the air. A stranger would mistake him for an animator. Do we? Naruto and Kushina asked, dumbfounded. Surprised by each other's question, they their heads, avoiding eye contact. We have. Your son is following his master's path. I have failed Minato, but Naruto is a splendid pupil. So eager to execute his knowledge, Jiraiya boasted. Kushina shot Naruto an accusing look. He tried to save his hide, giving her a denying hand movement. Come on, you can tell your mother of your last conquest. Jiraiya laughed wholeheartedly, as he scribbled his last perverse thought in his notebook. Conquest. Oh Naruto, did you have fun on your mission? Kushina asked, a serene smile gracing her face. Naruto knew he was in deep shit. That stupid old man beside him gave his mother a false color. It's not what you think, Naruto announced nervously. How could he explain that the reason for this situation was her panty without mentioning that delicate fact? Oh, then tell me what you think I'm thinking, Naru-chan. Kushina purred sweetly, propping her chin on the palm of one of her hands. Jiraiya sensed that he triggered an avalanche. He did feel bad for his pupil, but he wasn't dumb enough to engage Kushina in her current mood. Whoa, look at he time, I really should be going. I don't want to bother you further. Kushina, thanks for dinner. Naruto, hang in there, Jiraiya said before using a simple Shunshin no jutsu and thus escaping the impending doom. Naruto was shocked at his sensei's betrayal. He could feel his mother's glare on his skin, making him visibly uneasy. Tell me of your little whore, what was she like? She must have been very eager to spread her legs for you. Kushina ranted agitated. She couldn't help but feeling hurt after the announcement of his conquest. Naruto was taken aback. His mother was furious and jealous. Maybe it was the first or maybe it was the second. It could be as well a combination of the two. He decided to play a dangerous game by annoying her beyond reason. Don't call her a whore. I really like that girl and the with her is unbelievable. I really love how she is playing innocent, but her body is somewhat lewd and her boobs, on the first sight they are firm like huge melons. But if you touch them, your fingers will sink in. Naruto rhapsodized, gesturing with his hands groping an imaginary beast. Kushina couldn't believe her ears. Did she mean so little to him? But he told her that he wouldn't never forget their intercourse. Were his sweet words nothing but lies? Tears threatened to escape her eyes. She tried to retain her composure. She wouldn't want to cry in front of him. Naruto could see his mother's inner battle, her frustration, her doubts. At once she was as silent as someone could be. He didn't want to hurt her feelings anymore, as seeing his mother sad made him sad too. He stood up, circling the table and stopping behind her. He embraced her from behind, placing his chin on her shoulder, so that they were cheek by cheek. Please don't cry, Naruto pleaded, rubbing his cheek against hers. Why would I cry? I should be glad that my son found a girl he likes. If she makes you happy too, then I won't hinder your relationship, Kushina stated as reasonably as she could do. It pained her, that she was merely an object of lust. She fought with every fiber of her body to dislike the warm and pleasant feeling of his cheek against her own. You really mean it? I've even got a present from her, Naruto announced happily. Kushina was curious, as he searched his trousers' right pocket with his hand. He fetched the red panty from his pocket, proudly presenting it in front of his mother. Kushina sat there saucer-eyed, feeling the broadening of his grin through their cheek-to-cheek connection. That's my panty, Kushina exclaimed appalled, as she tried to reach out for her underwear. It was an effortless attempt, as Naruto anticipated her reaction, saving his treasure on time. Abruptly the situation made sense to her. The girl Naruto was talking about was herself. An huge blush started to heat up her face. She buried her face in her hands in order to hide her embarrassment. No, it's not. I seized them honestly and fair, Naruto responded to her outrageous demand, relishing in her cute behavior. He broke his embrace and stood up, before he placed a loving kiss on top of her head. He smelled the flavorsome odor of her hair. It was quite obvious that she had to shower after their intercourse this morning. He closed his eyes and breathed through his nose, savoring every tiny bit of her fragrance. If her juice could make him horny beyond belief, then her hair's aroma could make him feel at peace. They stayed in this position for a couple of minutes, before Naruto could break away her hair's allurement. I love you, Naruto whispered intoxicated. He wished her a good night and a round, as he tottered to his bedroom. Kushina on the other hand sat yet at the table an hour or so longer, while she tried to digest what had just happened. Time skipped 2 days. A small sun ray fell on his face, making him stir in his sleep. He squinted his eyes as he tried to regain his orientation. The previous day he trained with Jiraiya, because his mother had to prepare the annual Konoha's Orphan Festival, which was combined with Mother's Day. She'd left the house early, so he hadn't had the chance to speak with her since the evening that he had illuminated the misunderstanding Jiraiya caused. After their all-day-long training session, they spent the night at a local sake bar, discussing the newest trends in the world of pervertism. Fortunately, he didn't have a headache. In his mind he sorted his personal to-do list, deciding to take a shower would be a good start in the day. Afterward he looked for his mother, but apparently she left this morning early too. He rummaged through their kitchen cabinet, but he found only staple ingredients. His mother was a splendid cook. And true to the maxim, too many cooks spoil the broth, neither Naruto or his father tried to obtain a developed culinary skill. In other words, both would die of hunger without Kushina around. Naruto sighed and closed the closets. In his theoretical to-do list he wrote beside, looking for food, the outcome of his efforts, mission failed. The next thing to do was to pick up a bouquet of flowers he ordered last week at the Yamanaka's flower shop. Ino, one of his former buddies at Konoha's Shinobi Academy, helped him to choose the right composition of flowers. There are so many kinds of flowers. On several occasions she tried to explain him the wonder of ikebana, which means literally, living flowers. He wasn't able to grasp the art of flower arrangement. He told her that it is probably a kunoichi thing, earning him a glare from the zealous female. He couldn't help but smile. A loyal friendship connected him with many heirs of noble and well-known shinobi clans. Ino was one of them. He was having a nice dream. A perverted dream. After they escorted her back to her birth country, he was having these dreams on a monthly basis. The image of the beautiful and delicate actress, called Kazuhana Koyuki, invaded his mind, tormenting him with perverted scenarios, like written in one of the famous Ika novels. Maybe his reading of these novels was the cause for this situation, but for him, it didn't really matter. Koyuki Haim was showing him her wonderful assets. Goshujin-sama, master. Don't eat my bobs. Koyuki screamed giddily, constraining him with her legs, while she pushed him in deeper in her heavenly valley of femininity. He devoured her breasts like a savage. Slurping sounds could be heard as he generated a vacuum on her areola, his tongue teasing her erected nipples. "I will make you mine now," he exclaimed boastful, positioning his member at the entrance of her crotch. He was about to lose his virginity, even when it's only his imaginary one. He felt excited as he visualized that his hungry CCK would ravage this goddess beneath him, causing her to moan and squirm in pleasure. He started to push his CCK in her soft caressing folds, as, "Oh my, Sasuke-chan, are you having a naughty dream?" Uchiha Makoto asked as she bent forward in front of him so that they saw face to face. Sasuke's eyes widened in horror. He immediately rolled away from her, unsure whether to be peeved or not at her for interrupting his imaginary first time. "Take a shower, I will prepare breakfast. I will help Kushina at the festival and I decided that you will help me," Makoto said in between her giggles. Her Sasuke-chan was so cute in his flustered condition. "What? I don't want to. It's boring and there are so many annoying girls." Sasuke protested. "You don't have to go. But it could happen that your father and brother will find about Sasuke-chan having naughty dreams," Makoto stated with a serene smile. She loved to tease her Sasuke-chan. As Sasuke's head hung in defeat, she knew about her victory. She left his room, accompanied by a hearty chuckle. "Things can only get better," Makoto thought happily. "Things can only get worse," Sasuke thought depressed as he prepared for the worst. Kushina had her hands full. She coordinated the many volunteers, but were interrupted sometimes by snobby wives of rich merchants who wanted to exploit the festival to improve their standing with the Hokage's family. In contrast, the wives of the major clan heads were really uncomplicated. After all, they knew the reason for their festival. The life of shinobi was harsh. You could die on every mission. Sometimes families were unfortunate to lose both parents, making their offspring orphans. She established this festival after Naruto's birth, as he had almost lost his parents too. The image of her child growing up in an orphanage made her sad. She shook her head, trying to banish the depressing thoughts. After all, she had to work to do. Kushina-chan, Makoto squealed, as she hugged her oblivious friend. Makoto-chan, Kushina shouted, returning her hug. Out of harm's way, Sasuke observed the perverse scene of two adult women squealing and hugging each other, like they were small girls. "Sasuke," a familiar voice shouted behind him. He around to see Naruto coming along his way. "You decided to help your Okasan." "How unexpected," Naruto stated, surprised. As his thoughts wandered back to his lovely Koyuki Hime, a dreamy smile appeared on his face. "Sasuke, are you all right?" Naruto asked, worried. He hadn't ever seen this stoic Uchiha making such facial expression. Sasuke was thrown back into reality, trying his best to put on the trademark of the Uchiha clan, an impassive expression. "Sasuke-chan, tell Naruto about your dream," Makoto shouted, totally destroying his previous efforts as a blush crept up his face. "Oh, that must be a really nice dream," Naruto said, a mischievous glint gracing his eyes. After some teasing, Naruto decided to greet Sasuke's mom. He really liked Makoto, even when she was a little too crazy for his taste. She was quite attractive for her age. She was not really old, but 6 years older than his mother, making her 42. Her onyx-colored eyes had something magical in them. Their effect was increased by her raven black hair, which reached past her shoulder blades. If he had to compare both women, Makoto would get the characteristics, beautiful but utmost crazy and manipulative, whereas his mother would get, easy to anger but totally cute when excited. After exchanging greetings, Naruto and Sasuke were assigned to a group of volunteers by Kushina. "Hey Onichan, play with me," a little 5-year-old girl asked Sasuke, looking at him with puppy eyes. The other female adults on there, playing table, squealed in delight. "HNN, play with yourself," Sasuke stated coldly as he tried to push the little pest away. "Oh Sasuke-sama, he's so cool," one fangirl stated with dreamy eyes, as she made plans in her mind to rape poor Sasuke-chan. "Fangirls are dangerous. Yeah, and he's good with kids," another fangirl added. Besides their blurred reality, Sasuke tried to fight off the little girl who really wanted to play with her funny Onichan. "Sasuke, you are popular with the women folks. Maybe you should give up on being a shinobi and start producing grandchildren. Makoto-san will be overjoyed," Naruto stated with a grin on his face. He couldn't believe how stupid his fans were. "There's only one for me," Sasuke responded angrily at the sight of dumb fangirls sullying the great name of the Uchiha. "Go away, little brat, pester someone else." Abruptly the girl was silent, too silent. Quiet hiccups were escaping her throat. "Now you've done it, making a little girl cry. A hero of the Uchiha clan," Naruto scoffed. "Come here, little girl, the duck-head Onichan is stupid." Naruto gestured with his hand at his lap. The little girl sniffed and walked to Naruto, where he picked her up. As she sat now face to face with the stupid Onichan, she out to be a mischievous little girl, because she started to blow raspberries at Sasuke. Naruto couldn't help but laugh. "Kushina-chan, Naruto has grown into a fine adult," Makoto stated as she looked at the ludicrous scene. "It's only sad that my son doesn't get along with children." Kushina her head to her son's table. There was a little girl squeaking and laughing on her son's lap. She smiled at the sight of Naruto and the girl throwing stupid and childish words at Sasuke, who sat there visibly upset. Subconsciously she registered this particular event, reclassifying him not as a son but as a possible lover. Naruto-sama, you're natural with kids. The female beside him exclaimed amazed. At the unexpected statement, he his head to see her face. He didn't know her name, but he was sure that she got her Chunin promotion last month. You don't have to call me Sama. My father is the one who is Hokage. I'm only a regular jonin, Naruto responded, diverting his attention back to the little girl, who started to doodle a ridiculous image of Sasuke. He had to fight hard to restrain his laughter. Meanwhile the kunoichi moved directly beside Naruto, as they were now stool by stool. She looked at the picture and started immediately to giggle. Even Naruto couldn't restrain himself anymore. A hearty sound of laughter swashed through the air. Astonished, Kushina looked for the reason. A smile graced her face. Her festival was a huge success. But as she saw the picture in front of her eyes, her smile vanished. A foreigner would mistake the laughing trio for a happy family. Two young caring parents, delighted by their daughter's doodle. Normally the picture would be exemplary for a well-functioning family. But she couldn't stand the sight of a different female than herself clinging to Naruto's arm. Now the corners of her mouth were as flat as the best Uchiha. She started to emit an cataclysmic aura, as an unfamiliar jealousy took control of her body. She narrowed her eyes at the woman before muttering manifold cuss words, none of them in the slightest G-rated. Makoto looked worried as she tried to free her friend out of her stasis. She mumbled some very bad words. It pained her, but she had to resort to violence, giving the redhead a light slap. Kushina, what's going on? Makoto asked as she looked for a visible sign of life. Kushina snapped out of her stupor, rubbing her sore cheek. Ouch! What was that for? The redhead retorted, giving her best friend an harsh glare. You looked like you were going to murder innocent rabbits. Someone had to stop the imminent slaughter, Makoto responded, giving her a playful wink. I didn't mean to. I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe it's the stress, Kushina stated, but in reality it was a futile attempt to reassure herself. She glanced a last time at her son's table, seeing an overjoyed girl hugging her newest favorite person. At that time, some very deep instincts kicked in, changing irrevocably her point of view of her son. It was already late evening as Kushina and Naruto walked home together. They were one of the last people leaving, because they had helped to clean up the aftereffects of the festival. On the one hand Naruto was overjoyed, because he could make a little girl very happy, at least for one day. On the other hand he felt depressive as he imagined that maybe his future daughter could live in an orphanage. The thought of him having a little girl of his own to love and to cherish, to protect and to shelter, to see her smile every day, made him sentimental. But there are always two people involved, Naruto thought mirthless, totally oblivious to person beside him, who had her own share of problems. That stupid bitch, playing happy family with him, Kushina ranted angrily in her mind. Many women were surprised to see Naruto got along well with children, increasing his popularity by the village's bachelor girls tenfold. He was already popular, mostly because of his being the son of their Hokage. But now, he proved to be a good father too. Unbeknown to our two Namakazes, the gossip was already spreading through Konoha. By tomorrow, his fan base would grow drastically, making him the most popular bachelor in Konohagakure. Kasen, what is it like becoming a parent? Naruto asked his mother, breaking her out of her thoughts. Well, Kushina considered her answer, while she was stared at by a curious Naruto. You have to take a lot of responsibility. I want to know what it feels like. What did you feel? Naruto asked, unsatisfied with her previous answer. She could see a magic glint in his eyes, like he was very eager to gain knowledge about this topic. I was happy. No, rather overjoyed. Like I was on the top of the world, Kushina stated, truthful to her feelings. Naruto looked at her in amazement, as her feelings poured out her, giving her body a warm peaceful glow. I'm somewhat jealous of you. I would love to experience this feeling, Naruto said, with a slight grin on his face. And somehow, I wouldn't mind experiencing this feeling with you, Kushina thought, after hearing his bold response. Distracted by their conversation, they found themselves already in front of their house. It was a modest property for a Hokage. The village's counselor tried to persuade his father to move in a more bigger and lordly house, but he always refused, saying that's the place he had founded his family. 20 minutes later, both of them sat at the dining table, drinking some green tea imported from Kiri no Kuni. Naruto praised her, because of her engagement for their village, making her face blush. What's wrong with me? My heart is beating so fast, Kushina thought as she recalled today's events. Somehow I felt really jealous seeing Naruto with that dumb girl, she admitted to herself, nodding her head. Meanwhile, Naruto decided to keep quiet and observed the strange behavior of the female in front of him. Okay, he's very handsome. And he is really good with children, Kushina stated the facts mentally. Yeah, and he's a damn stallion in bed, a voice in her head added. That's right, I love how he can make me. Stop, what are you doing here? Kushina angrily questioned her alter ego. I beg your pardon, I'm only planning to provide us with a little god, her alter ego stated soberly. Why do you think I need intercourse so badly? I'm completely fine. You don't have to. Kushina tried to reassure her counterpart, but was interrupted by an heated response. Don't give me that crap. As a matter of fact, we share the same feelings and the same emotions. I know you want to be coveted by Naruto. You love to be physically by him. That's something Minato hasn't given us for years. But he's my son. I'm his mother. It wouldn't work, Kushina countered, slightly defeated. True love transcends all boundaries. Are you really happy with the way it works? No. No caress. No, only being the Hokage's trophy wife. Then settle for your boring life. Or do you feel that life has prepared something better for you? Something special. Her alter ego spoke before vanishing into Kushina's vast subconsciousness. I'm all sweaty. I'll take a shower and go to sleep. Good night, Kasen, Naruto said as he stood up after deciding that he had seen enough of her strange behavior. It's now or never, Kushina thought as she rose her head. Naruto was about to enter the stairs, which connected the first and second floor of the building as Kushina abruptly stood up, causing her chair to fall backwards. As he heard the bang of wood hitting wood, Naruto stopped dead in his tracks, turning around and looking for danger. Are you all right? He asked her, visibly worried. She circled the table in silence, so that they stood directly in front of each other. He furrowed his brow at her strange behavior. I want to make a proposal, Kushina exclaimed in a nervous voice. Naruto tilted his head, so that he could see directly in her eyes. After all, Naruto was 6 inches taller than her. He gave her an questioning glance, silently asking her to continue her speech. It's an indecent proposal, Kushina whispered, as she lowered her head. Naruto put his index finger under her chin and slowly moved her head up so that Naruto could look into her eyes again. There's not an indecent thing in you, Naruto whispered in a loving voice and placed a soft peck on her lips. Kushina closed her eyes and smacked her lips, savoring every tiny bit of his taste. It was a brief kiss, but so incredibly innocent and emotional, that it drove her simply crazy. I didn't told you anything yet. What are you doing with? Her cute, but meaningless resistance was silenced by a second kiss. The second one was a little longer, giving him time to tease her lips with his tongue. She gave him a betrayed look as she got no chance to use her own tongue. Let me explain my prop. She was silenced again by the now third kiss. His tongue begged her lips for entrance, which they gladly granted. In her mouth started a battle for supremacy. Her efforts were eager, but in the end Naruto won the fight and dictated the order in his new reign. After 20 seconds, both of them needed to catch breath. Kushina braced herself by putting her hands and head on his torso. She could hear his calming heartbeat, making her cozy and dizzy. "Let me finish what I am saying, Ebane," Kushina exclaimed, in a last-ditch effort to get her son to listen, although she had to breathe hard because of their previous prolonged kiss. Naruto snaked his arms around her hips and placed his chin on her head before stating, "There's no need to tell me anything. I already know." Kushina's violet eyes widened in surprise. Was she so easy to read? Her musings were interrupted as Naruto took her into his arms bridal style. Her arms instantly embraced his neck in order to give her back somewhat balance of her body. His movements caused her long red hair to waver in the air, giving her an angelic appearance. He carried both of them to his own bedroom, stating that tonight she would be his guest. In his room he asked her the most important question of the night. "Do you want to take a shower with me?" He wanted to strip her out of her clothes, but she slapped his hand away, stating that she would feel dirty and sweaty. He told her that he wouldn't really care, but accepted her decision nonetheless. With a couple of fluid and experienced hand movements she took care of her fiery hair. Now a bun graced her head, reducing her hair length enormously as it reached just about her shoulder. He observed her thoroughly, memorizing every part of her body, as she started to undress herself. She looked incredibly beautiful in her state, and huge red blush was creeping up her face, because of his embarrassing observation. He took her hand and guided her in his bathroom. Luckily his shower was big enough so that two people could fit in and move around comfortably. Naruto opened the water tap, accurately adjusting the mixture between warm and cold water. As he decided that the water temperature would be right to fulfill his lover's demand, he the shower head, splattering her with the warm liquid without warning. "Eck!" Kushina cried out, surprised by his action, earning a hearty chuckle from his lover. She decided to take revenge as she grabbed for the shower head. However, Naruto straightened his arm, and it was now too far away for Kushina to reach it. As she started to sulk, Naruto couldn't resist anymore. "You're so unbelievable cute," Naruto said with an huge grin. Then he placed the shower head in its mount and around to Kushina. He snaked his hands around her hips, pulling her against him. Then his hands wandered to her firm. He groped her butt in order to feel their soft plumpness. A soft moan escaped her throat, only to be silenced by a sloppy, wet kiss. "I love your bottom. It's so firm, yet so soft," Naruto praised her before giving her a special thorough groping. Naruto her around, so that she had to place her hands against the wall. He bent down, relishing in the sight of the two most beautiful in the world. He placed his hands on the side of each cheek to feel the soft tissue of her butt. Grinning wickedly he started to pull them apart just to push them together again. The gorgeous sight of Kushina's cheeks was enough to make him horny beyond belief. He stopped the movements and buried his face in her. "Don't spread my butt. Your nose is poking my butthole," Kushina exclaimed appallingly. However, her words didn't meet her actions, as she started to push her butt against his face. But a mere contact was not enough to please him anymore. Naruto's mouth latched hungrily on her left cheek, building up a vacuum through shaking. Next he ground his teeth against her exposed flesh, causing her to squirm. He held her firm in place as he produced hickey by hickey on her butt. "You're shicking on my butt," Kushina cried in pleasure. She was on cloud nine as Naruto ravaged her firm butt. Like a gourmet, he savored every tiny bit of her cheeks with relish. She was as ready as a woman could be after feeling the heavenly pleasure as her butt was eaten up by the one she loves. As she could feel his teeth sink in her plump butt, she couldn't help but start squirming. By now her powerful lubrication began to drip out of her. "Your butt is dangerous. It looks like a ripe fruit. I couldn't help but try to taste it," Naruto acknowledged the appealing force of Kushina's rear section. He was ready to accelerate the pace. He slapped her as lightly to give her a sign to turn around. Her sore butt could now rest against the cool wall. Naruto was mesmerized by Kushina's. A thin thread of juice started to dangle down from her labia. He took advantage of the favorable situation and twisted it around his index finger. He ate up the rare delicacy and savored it with gusto. I shouldn't have done that, my boner is killing me. Naruto moaned his misfortune. Hindsight is easier than foresight. Kushina giggled. But I love your big CCK, so I don't really mind. His erected member started to throb painfully, an unmistakable sign of neglect. He really wanted to pound his big CCK in her unparalleled tight, but first of all he wanted to explore her love canal with his tongue. He began to lick carefully her inner labia. They had an unique sweet and sour flavor. He took them in between his lips, tenderly pressuring them in order to achieve a reaction of his lover. A deep moan escaped her throat as she grabbed his hair. Kushina used her other hand to push him deeper into her. Her reaction caused him to smile against her. He really loved to spoil her wet. The next thing he would do was to tease her. His tongue brushed against her sensitive organ every now and then in order to make her crazy. Without mercy and without warning he forcefully latched his mouth on to her entrance, producing the lewd slurping sounds she loved to hear. Kushina was in ecstasy, as his tongue parted her folds and pierced her inner canal. It started to jump around, causing her to produce even more of her sweet nectar. After tasting his beautiful queen in her most private part, he decided to feast on another delicious part of her femininity. He rose from her thighs, causing his erected member to slap against her CCK starved. He tilted his head to give her a long, sloppy kiss. Now you can taste yourself. You're so yummy, Naruto exclaimed before exchanging fluids of saliva and female ejaculation with Kushina. She was caught off guard by his action, because normally someone wouldn't try to eat his own ejaculation. However, she was pleasantly surprised by her own taste. He directed his glance at her oobs. They looked like ripe fruits too, inviting him to take a taste. He brought his head to their level to observe the erectness of her pink nipples. You both must be pretty lonely, but do not worry. I will adopt and take care of you. Naruto spoke in a tender voice. Kushina rolled with her eyes at his ridiculous form of affection. Put your head in between them and something wonderful will happen, Kushina told him, a bright smile gracing her face. Naruto couldn't defy his queen. He complied her command and pushed his face in the valley of her round soft globes. And now, MMPHHF. Naruto was silenced as Kushina pushed her hands against the sides of her bobs, sandwiching him in the middle. Ah. Yes. Lick them. SCK them. Taste them to your heart's content, Kushina ordered giddily. Naruto broke free of her pleasant ensnarement just to take the areola of her right bob at whole. She threw her head back, completely enjoying the feeling of suction on her. He used his tongue to tease her engorged nipple, causing her to moan naughtily. He loved to hear the pleasure he was giving her. After giving her other breast an equal share of attention, he noticed that the shower was not the right place to take things further. Playtime is over. Come with me, Naruto ordered as he closed the water tap. Kushina was taken aback by his forceful command. Tonight I will not stop until I stained you completely in white. Kushina was heavily after his bold statement. What? We didn't shower yet, Kushina tried to persuade him, as she was pulled by him back to his bedroom. He threw her on his bed, while deciding what he could do with her on his next move. His eyes sparkled with anticipation, as he started to crawl toward her. Kushina didn't like the look he was giving her and started to slide toward the bed head. Naruto shook his head at her cute attempt to escape, but he grabbed her ankles, constraining further movements. What are you planning to do with me? Kushina asked with a mixture of concern and excitement in her voice. I'll make you feel good. But first of all please undo your bun, Naruto asked. He rubbed her ankles with his thumbs, while she complied his demand. Her long red hair fell down behind her back. Naruto kept hold of her hips and started to pull her to the footboard. He stopped his movement as her butt rested ahead of the edge of the bed. Her magnificent head of hair laid outspread over her on his bed. Only her strands, which framed both sides of her face, were now resting on her collarbone. In summary, it was a sight to behold. Gorgeous, Naruto whispered in a low voice at the incomparable sight. His trance was interrupted by an giggling Kushina. He gave her a questioning glance. You know I used to hate my hair. I'm somewhat happy that there's someone who could be so mesmerized by it, Kushina said warmly. Naruto was appalled. He totally adored her red mane. We do have to talk about the proposal. It all has to end when your father comes back, Kushina told him. Naruto smiled, a sign of his approval. He picked up her feet in order to give her a nice comforting massage. What do you think? Like lovers? Naruto asked as he played with her petite toes. Like lovers? Kushina repeated his question as she understood the meaning of his question. Her face blushed and the beat of her heart increased. In short, her body was on fire. Like lovers then, Kushina whispered, giving him the signal he eagerly waited for. Then you will cease being my mother for the next 10 days, Kushina-chan. Naruto smiled as he spreaded her legs and crawled on top of her, so that they were face to face. Her bosom was squished between them and his erected member rested at her entrance. The feeling of his tool rubbing against her labia made her crazy. Next he entangled his fingers with hers before raising their arms over her head. She was completely at his mercy as she gave away the last opportunity to brace herself. But he wanted to build up more tension in her. Naruto attacked her defenseless neck, torturing her with sweet butterfly kisses. After producing 1 or 2 hickeys on her sensible skin, he kissed her on the mouth. Deciding it was now time to release her of her pent-up tension, he pushed his throbbing member slightly forward. Now he could feel how her inner labia engulfed the head of his CCK. He entered her only by an inch, but her inner wall was already clenching his member for her dear life. He could hear her moans, although muffled through the kiss they were sharing. Inch by inch he pushed his COK in her vagina, or love canal as he liked to call it. 8 inches later, the tip of its head rested directly in front of her cervix. A final thrust caused a touching between the two lovers. Her inner walls fluttered around his CCK in order to map the structure of the bold invader. Its bulging veins and swollen head were immediately registered by her genital. Her pussy prepared everything necessary to reduce the friction between them. Her lubrication started to flow in even bigger amounts. Yours the best, outstanding. Every time I thrust out I can feel it shaking me back in. My is going to melt. Naruto moaned in between his breaths. Kushina was happy as he praised her private part. But she wanted to give him dirty talk too. I love it when your swollen tip kisses my cervix. I love the feeling of enlarged veins rubbing against the folds of my walls. It makes me crazy. In order to intensify the thrusts, Kushina wrapped her legs around his back. She wanted to brace herself, but Naruto was holding her firm by their entangled fingers. She arched her back as another wave of pleasure hit her. He increased the pace of his thrusts. His balls were now slapping against her bottom. It was like their first time. He was very eager to receive a fountain of her ejaculation on his balls. Normally he would feel a slight pain when his balls were about to release a moderate amount of sperm. But as she sprayed her love juice against them, the pain vanished into nothing. Thrust harder, faster, Kushina commanded, as she felt a familiar knot of heat building up in her abdomen. Ah, I'm coming, Kushina cried out, as a powerful orgasm started to roll over her. Her body fluids started to leak out of her ussy, indicating that she was already far more than wet. As his gave her cervix a particular deep kiss, she surrendered to the pleasure. Naruto saw her eyes rolling back into her head and a line of saliva drooling out of her mouth. He felt the contractions of her walls as her tried to milk his seed. But he wasn't ready to come yet. He wanted to ravage this tight just a little longer. "Your wants to milk me. You're so damn tight, I can't hardly move," Naruto grunted, having serious problems trying to maintain his steady thrusts. He decided to slow down a bit and used the rest to kiss her French style. She was weakened from her previous orgasm and gave his tongue instant access to her mouth. Inside her mouth started a playful battle between them. After exchanging saliva and love, Naruto returned to his previous pace and hammered his in her wet tight. "I love the feeling of your squished against my skin," Naruto whispered in her ear. He resorted to dirty talk in order to bring her closer to her second orgasm. Curiously, he remembered at this moment an article about in the past. Apparently men used his hips to give their CCKs a vertical motion. As he was already in the perfect position to test the knowledge, he gave it a try. Kushina's eyes widened by an unfamiliar sensation. "Your aka's jumping around. It's bumping against my walls. I'm coming a second T," Kushina cried as the next huge orgasms hit her. But before she could finish her sentence, Naruto sealed her mouth shut with another sloppy kiss. Her tightness was increasing with every of her orgasm. He would soon give in the pleasant feeling of his ak being milked and its head bumping against her cervix. A small drip of precum already leaked out of his CCK. As her second orgasm faded away, her perception was already blurred. She wanted to be stained with his cum. Her womb was begging for the warm shower, but its best milking efforts were unanswered. She almost lost consciousness as she felt the immense pressure on the dam of her female ejaculation. Her dizzy eyes snapped open as a gushing fountain sprayed out of her. He waited for this moment. Her precious juice splattered against his genital, melting away the pain of nearly bursting balls. He felt the circling of sperm in his scrotum. He could only imagine the devastating outcome of his imminent ejaculation. He stopped his powerful thrust as the orgasm hit him like a sledgehammer. For a last time he pushed his CCK in her, reaching deeper than ever before. His tip was buried in her cervix, already surpassing the definition of a mere kiss. He felt every movement of his seed. As a matter of fact, it was not a steady movement, rather thrusts. As Naruto rammed his CCK in her cervix, Kushina's body began to spasm as an effect of her third orgasm. Her hungry started a final attempt to milk the white ejaculation from his CCK, this time successfully. Her wall clamped down on his tool, every fold was caressing one of his bulgy veins. His already enlarged CCK started to swell even further. Her was now completely filled with his meat, taking the form of its shape. As her cervix sensed the looming shower, its mouth started to open, causing the tip to dive in a little bit farther. His cum would be sprayed without hindrance in her most sacred part. Small vibrations announced the beginning of the end, accompanied by his mighty roar. A thick rope of sperm sprayed from his COK, just to be splattered in the blink of an eye against the back of her womb. Kushina lost the remaining perception she had left, as an unstoppable series of white thick blobs sprayed in her womb. The powerful spurts of ejaculation went into business themselves, causing warm thick waves of seed to slosh around. After 30 seconds of strenuous squirting, Naruto's orgasm started to fade away. He got an indecently huge grin on his face, because this time outclassed easily the first 2 times with her. A quick glance at her face confirmed his assumptions. His lover was pretty much spaced out. As he felt the closing of her cervix's mouth on his member's tip, he expected that her womb must be filled up to the brim. He placed a genuine peck on her lips, causing her to regain her consciousness. "My womb is so full. I can feel your cum sloshing around. Kushina moaned in a blissful state. I couldn't help but spraying buckets of cum in you. But I promised you to stain your womb in white, Naruto whispered, relishing in the feeling of her inner canal caressing his enlarged member. Ah, I nearly forgot. Happy Mother's Day Kushina-chan, Naruto whispered before engaging her in another tongue battle. After his victory he added, even when I'm not currently your son. Well, thank you, Naruto-kun, Kushina smiled and leaned in for another kiss. After their heated intercourse she sensed a particular wetness in her back. We didn't towel ourselves after showering. Now your bed is soaked. We may as well sleep in my bed. You're allowed to carry me, Kushina ordered playfully while giggling. I'm allowed to. Well, it's an honor, Your Highness, Naruto thanked her with a wicked grin on his face, before releasing her restrained arms. He took her bridal style and carried them over to her bedroom. They crawled under the blanket with Kushina resting her head on his broad shoulder. Her index finger drew small circles on his muscular torso. That was heavenly, Kushina sighed dreamily. Yes, it was. We'll do it many times in the next few days. Brace yourself, Naruto warned her while moving his hand to her butt. You're poking my butthole, Kushina stated calmly. You can tell, Naruto asked innocent. It's my butthole baka. Kushina tried to sound angry, but a sweet tiredness took control of her. In the next moment Naruto could feel her warm steady breath against his skin. He smiled at her peaceful sight and thought to himself, I really love you, my most precious person.